Hello once more. We have now learned the basics of inspection protocols and identifying high-risk factors. When these factors are present and deemed necessary, we perform decontaminations on the boats we inspect. In this presentation, you'll learn that there are several types of decontaminations. Before we get too deep into the decontaminations, just a little overview of the lead team and when we received our WIT training and where. So Tegan, obviously our program coordinator, she attended 2 WIT trainings there, one in Havasu and Lake Mead. I attended my WIT 2 training in 2017 at Lake Mead. Kyle also attended his WIT training at Lake Mead in 2019. Last but not least, Julie attended her WIT 2 training last season in Lake Mead before the shutdown. So what is decontamination? Again, there's several kinds of decontaminations. They range from simple hand removal of plants all the way to our full mobile decontamination unit, which uses high pressure and sometimes or hot water and sometimes high pressure to kill and remove all evidence of AIS. We use no soaps, no bleach or chemicals. This is all hot water and exposure time only. Our biggest priority, same as with when we're doing inspections, safety is extremely important during this process because it's again an active environment we're working in. Lots of loud noises. We're using PPE, and the water's under pressure. It is hot, and there's just some dangerous elements that we're working with. So again, safety first. And again, we're all about outreach and education. So it's really important that we show the boater what we're doing, explain exactly what we're doing so that they can have a better understanding of exactly what the risk is and what our mission is and why we're taking these measures. Again, we want to remove all evidence, kill and remove all evidence of AIS. That's extremely important, and that is the purpose of a decontamination, is that we are intending to kill and remove all evidence of AIS. And while doing this, we use the acronym of TIME, which gives us a systematic fashion of how to proceed when performing the decontamination, and we'll go into this at length here shortly. Again, remember the goal of the decontamination is to kill and remove all evidence of all aquatic invasive species. Safety is extremely important, as I've already stated. The first step of making sure that we're safe is communicating to the boater as well as our coworkers exactly what procedures we're going to be following during the course of the decontamination and why, based on the type of boat and what we've seen. We need to be situationally aware. We work in high traffic areas. There's lots of cars. We need parking brakes set and engines off before we perform any form of decontamination. It's really important that there's no chance of any accidents. We need to be in visual contact with our coworkers and the boat owner and bystanders. Definitely make sure that you can keep an eye open around you while performing your decon. And we have lots of personal protective equipment. We need to be wearing closed-toed shoes, proper footwear. In certain instances, we have some steel-toe shoes requirements, steel-toe requirements. Safety vests, that's worn at any time that we're on the job, so that goes without saying. Gloves, we'll be using heat-resistant gloves when performing decontaminations, especially with the hot water. But you'll be wearing nitrile or latex gloves throughout the course of your work, and so you will already be gloved up when removing some of these critters or plant specimens from the bunks and the trailers, or from live wells, or reaching into the engine bilge compartment. We always have eye or ear protection on. It's important to take care of our eyes and ears. Again, high pressure, hot water, lots of loud noises. And so this is our decontamination unit. It's a Landa Eco 7000. It's kind of the Cadillac of mobile decontamination units, and we're very lucky to have one of these. Uh, really state of the art. And so I have I'll let an expert fill you in on that. So please view the Landa demo video from your video playlist. Here's some of the equipment that we use with the Landa, some of our attachments. We have our low flow hose. We use this a lot. This is our primary tool when we need 120 degree water and low pressure, low flow. There's our muffs. This is for whenever we have to do outboard or the outboard portion of an inboard-outboard engine. And our Fake-A-Lake, this is super important for our clamshell inboard engines and our ballast intake systems. We use that one a lot. The garden hose attachment, this gives us an extra 2 or 3 feet and attaches to, allows us to attach to all of those attachments from the main hose coming from the types of decontaminations we'll be performing at the boat launch this season. The first that we like to talk about is the bait decon. And so Washington State has some pretty specific freshwater live bait laws. Here's the administrative code in case you want to dig into it, but we really don't see bait decons in our line of work in a prevention program on freshwater lakes, but if we did, it would most likely entail just doing a hot water flush of the live or bait well of a boat that has that feature. Second type of decontamination is a plant decon, and this is is a simple hand removal of plants from trailer bunks and axles, like you can see in that image there. These happen pretty often. We did 231 of those in 2020, and so again, this happens pretty regularly, and we document and take notes, and this is something that is performed by 6-month seasonals without the mobile unit. But if all the plant matter can't be removed, and it's a pretty nasty looking trailer or boat, we'll definitely do a hot water flush on it. Standing water decons, we do a lot of those. I think we did about 1,000 in 2020, and so this is also something that's done at the launch without the mobile unit. We need to use catch basins to make sure that we're catching all the standing water that we drain from live wells or that we pump from ballast bags or the village compartment. We need to make sure we catch all of that standing water so that we can dispose of it in line with stormwater and wastewater regulations. And then, of course, there's the full decon, and that's when we use the mobile unit to use hot water and high pressure on boats to kill and remove all evidence of AIS. And we did 6 full decontaminations last year. So again, more on the bait decon. There's very restrictive and specific live bait laws, especially in freshwater settings. There's the WAC for you if you want to read it in specifics. Again, we don't really do bait decontaminations. We haven't seen one and hopefully won't have to do one. But again, it would be just as simple as probably doing a hot water flush on the live well system. The plant decontaminations, again, this is simple hand removal for the most part. We need the boater to make sure the parking brakes are set. Safety is really important on these. A lot of times we find stuff hanging off the trailer axle and the bunks, but it's not uncommon to find them on lines for bumpers and anchors and ski ropes. We also see them on license plates and trailer lights. Lots of gear and opportunities for those plants to get grabbed and for them to hang on. And the fragments, the Eurasian water milfoil is a kind of a scary example in the sense that a lot of our invasive plant species, just a fragment of that plant can take root and start a healthy established population in another water body. So it's really important that we're thorough and make sure that we're removing as much of that plant matter as possible. Here's some interesting images. And so this image on the far right here is a trailer that was pulled out of Lake Terrell. That's out in Ferndale, and they have a pretty healthy Eurasian water milfoil population that we're concerned about. And so milfoil is one of our prime suspects, if you will, as far as invasive plant species. And this is a cool aqua car, and we put this here just to, there are some really neat watercraft that are going to come down the inspection lane, but we just need to remember that although it's easy to get distracted with how cool the car is, if upon closer look you can see that they actually do have a lot of plant matter attached to the underside of their boat/car. And thankfully that's a native freshwater species, but it's still this would still qualify as a plant decon. We would just be relieved to find that it's a native species. So yeah, again, safety concerns on the plant decon. I think I mentioned this a little bit, but you'll find yourself under the boat removing stuff from the bunks and or the trailer axles. So we need to be communicating clearly. We need to communicate to the boat owner or operator, and also our co-workers. We're working in a team, and we need to be looking out for each other and making sure that if our co-workers under the trailer or under the boat trying to remove some material, we need to be situationally aware and make sure that safety is our first priority. Again, teamwork. Make sure you know where your teammate is at and what they're doing so that you can make sure that everything's staying safe. Parking brakes. Yes. Usually whenever we're removing plant material, we want the parking brake set and if at all possible, the engine off, just so there's really no chance of that trailer rolling or moving when we're trying to do our job. Now please view the plant decontamination example video. For standing water decons, now there's two types of water that we're concerned about. One is verifiable and unverifiable. We discussed these in the previous presentations on inspection protocols, but obviously the verifiable water is the water that we can see. And for instance, an example is water in a live well versus water in a ballast tank is water in a live well is verifiable, water in the ballast tank is unverifiable. And so if we cannot be removed or we're suspecting that it has zebra or quagga mussel veligers in it, we definitely need to get it out of there. We need to have our catch basins in place. So we need to drain our bilges, our live wells, our interior compartments, and our ballast tanks. A lot of times the bilge, we can pull the bilge plug. We want to have a catch basin in place when we catch that, when we pull that, so we can catch all that water. The live wells, we cycle their pumps as well as the ballast tanks. We can usually put all of that into a catch basin so we can not only dispose of it but document it. We want to dispose of it properly with wastewater and stormwater guidelines, but we also need to document the volume of water that we've collected. We can also use hand pumps and towels to remove any water that comes from a water body. If we can't necessarily drain it, we do have the hand pumps and towel drying. If the watercraft has been in positive or suspect water bodies in the last 30 days, we definitely will take this a bit further, and we'll want to remove that standing water and then most likely do a full decon, and that's when we'll use the 120-degree water to flush all their interior compartments and even do an engine flush for them. And again, more and more standing water. So I think, overwhelmingly, we do a lot of standing water decons that don't require hot water, just because we're trying to get people to learn that, carrying standing water in between water bodies is the strongest vector of transmission for invasive species. And so, again, I can't stress enough that we need to collect this water. We need catch basins underneath the boat before we pull bilge plugs and in place before we cycle pumps. We need to document the volume of the water, where the water came from, and then we also need to make sure we're disposing of it properly. We don't want to just throw the water on the impervious surface that is the boat launch. We want to follow stormwater and wastewater guidelines and regulations. So when we have a jet engine, there's several types of engines that we do decons on. The jet engine is very unique in that you definitely want to start it before you start running water to it, or you could potentially flood it out. But we usually have direct intakes for jet engines. It's very difficult to fake a lake for the intake grade on a jet engine. So yeah, here on this far left image, you can see how we've directly connected to the water's intake system to cool the engine. We have outboard engines that the engine is complete, motorhead all the way down to the prop is one full unit, and it's usually mounted on the transom with a motor mount. And then we have inboard outboards, and this is where the prop and is on the outside of the boat, but the actual engine and the mechanical workings are interior in the hull. We call those inboard outboards. Now please select the inboard outboard engine decontamination example video from your playlist. The inboard engines are distinct in that all of the mechanical workings are on the inside of the hull. And so it's just the skeg and the prop that are on the outside. So this intake right here, this is the clamshell I was referring to. This is how the engine draws water into itself to cool off. And so we have to use that fake a lake attachment that I was referencing earlier to create a nice seal around that clamshell. And then we plumb some water to it, some hot water to flush that engine and make sure that we're killing all the AIS that might be in the engine. And so now please select the inboard engine decontamination example from your video playlist. So the full decontamination is reserved for those high-risk watercraft that we know have been used or are coming from suspected or positive zebra or quagga mussel water bodies. We use high-pressure hot water to kill and remove all AIS from the exterior, and we do the interior compartment flush and just kind of the whole 9 yards on the full decon. And we use that acronym TIME to make sure that we're hitting all the important parts of the boat when performing the full decon. And again, that the key here is that we are killing and removing all AIS and evidence of AIS from that watercraft. And so we have a decon video. It's intended to provide you with information so you can explain the process. But as far as full decontaminations, those will usually be performed by our lead team. And however, the 6-month seasonals you may find yourself assisting with some of the decons throughout the season. So please view the full decontamination example video from Colorado Parks and Wildlife off of your video playlist. So the 4 steps to the decontamination are the same 4 steps that we use when conducting any inspection, especially the high-risk inspections. So the first being a report. We need to let our supervisors, our lead staff, and our co-workers know that we do have a high-risk boat and potentially in need of further action. We want to document our action and any information the boater gives us about water body history and use and acquisition information. And these 2 steps are the most important for any inspector, because this is kind of the groundwork that's being laid before we can actually perform the decontamination. And if the reporting is not done properly and the inspection is not documented, then we have to revisit both of these steps before we can continue. So again, these first 2 steps are the most important for all inspectors in all scenarios, especially the high-risk inspections, which may lead to a decontamination. So again, make sure that you're reporting to supervisors, lead staff, and your coworkers. Document those findings, and we need photos, notes, and we need just think that you are justifying why this boat is high risk and why it is in need of a decontamination. Photos, notes, and then after those 2 steps are done and we're all in unison as a team, Then we begin the collecting of samples, and finally we perform the decontamination. And that's based on the complexity of the boat and what features we need to focus on. And then after the decontamination, it is very possible that we do need to re-inspect. Usually we re-inspect a boat just to make sure that we covered those areas of concern, and have as many eyes on the boat as possible just to make sure that we have indeed killed and removed all AIS. The acronym, we saw it earlier, that we use when we're performing a decon is TIME. And so we'll go through this. The T is referring to the through hull fittings. So those are the little ports on the outside of all the boats. They're all over the side, and we even find them on the bottom, on the hull. The I stands for interior compartments. This is like your anchor well, live bait wells, ski holds, bilge. And then we go to our motor and gimbal mount area. And then the exterior, and that's when we focus on our hull and our trailer, and that's usually with the high pressure. So our first step, the T, we do our through hull fittings. These are usually outflows for bilge compartments and ballast bags. And so we need to use low flow water, 120 degrees. And we want our water flow to be inside to out on the boat, so that we're making sure that we're not introducing hot water or pushing any contaminated water in. We want to flush the water from the inside of the boat out. And so we usually spend time putting our garden hose attachments into those ports. And again, we use 120 degree water. It's low flow, so there's very low pressure. It's just that temperature and exposure time that we're worried about. The I is the interior compartments. We use low pressure water there again with the low flow attachment. 120 degrees is what we want coming out of the drain port. So for a live well or a bilge compartment, we run the 120 degree water in there, and then we record an exit temperature to make sure that anything that we're displacing from that compartment is dead. We have killed and removed it from that compartment. The M again is for motor, engine, and the gimbal and motor mount area. It's just bringing our attention to the propulsion system of the boat. Again, we have jet engines, inboard outboards, inboards, and full outboards. These require 140 degree exit temperature. So whether we're doing the direct in line to the engine with the jet engines, or the earmuffs for the inboard outboard, or the outboards, or the fake lake for the inboard, whenever the engine uptakes that water and emits it, that's where we take our temperature reading, and it needs to read 140 degrees so that we make sure that we're, again, killing and removing our AIS. And the E is for the exterior, and this is when we focus with the high pressure wand, and we ratchet up our pressure to about 3,000 psi, and we use 140 degree water with about 10 seconds of contact time is what we find is necessary to kill and remove the AIS on the exterior. Again, the heat is to kill, and the pressure is used to remove. So the pressure is not what does them in, it's the elevated temperature and the appropriate contact time. So just to reiterate and give you some illustrations here, again, we do our T, our through hull fittings, and our discharge ports. We flush them with 120 degree water. Here's Kyle demonstrating this wonderfully. Again, we have that low pressure, and we even have a diffuser so that we can reach into those narrow ports on the hull. And we want to do it for at least 60 seconds or until water kicks back on us. And sometimes those, as you saw in the video, sometimes those ports will have valves on them, so they will kick back almost instantaneously, and we're good to go. So again, 120 degrees. We want the water to go in and go in for at least a minute or until the water kicks back out at us. And then again, water flow should be inside to outside. And this is a good time to select the ballast tank decontamination video from your video playlist. And when we're decontaminating our interior compartments, we do a hot water flush of all those compartments: anchor wells, ski holds or ski lockers, bilge compartments. We do 120-degree water for those interior compartments so that we're not damaging any pumps or any plumbing. And then in the case of a jet engine, as we have here, I use this example, we do 140-degree water for the motor. And so that's the only difference. For the motor and engine, we do 140-degree water exit temperature on those, and so we have some good examples there of some outboards being deconned, an inboard, outboard, and then a full inboard. A really important part on the inboard, outboard is the gimbal area, and so this is kind of the big gasket that separates the inboard from the outboard portion of the engine. And that gimbal area, as you can imagine, lots of right angles and opportunities for invasive species to latch on. So each side of the gimbal needs 140-degree low flow for at least 2 minutes, and we can see that demonstrated here. One of our former inspectors is doing a gimbal rinse on this inboard, outboard. And for this task, the last task will be using the wand, and this has one purpose and one purpose only, and that's for the exterior. We use 140-degree water on the exterior, and that's to kill the AIS, and we need about 10 seconds of exposure time at that temperature, and we need to be about 12 inches from the hull when we're using the high pressure wand, is to not damage the gel coat or any finishes on the hull. Safety is paramount with a full decontamination. Similar to all of our other decontaminations, we need to be putting safety first. We need to make sure that we are protecting ourselves as well as our coworkers and the public. But as far as our personal safety when performing the decons, again, we'll be wearing heat-resistant gloves, eye and ear protection. We have high-pressure water potentially spraying us. We need to be aware of our surroundings and our situation. And again, communication is really important for safety as well as education. But as far as safety, we need to explain our procedures and to the boater and each other, so we know exactly what we're doing now and next, and so that everyone is on the same page, so that we can ensure our safety. And more on that, location is really important. So we're very particular about where we'll perform a decontamination. We take into consideration, we want to be as clear from traffic as possible. We want to be able to manage our runoff and deal with the contaminated water that we're going to be producing. We do have a reclaim mat, and Arlanda does have a reclaim system. You probably learned that from watching the video. But yeah, we are able to reclaim our water to eliminate that risk if we can't find a permeable surface that is okay with us working in. And then we also need to make sure that we're complying with state and local storm and wastewater regulations as far as that wastewater. The database protocol for whenever we are, whenever you are performing an inspection and you found that you have a high-risk vessel in front of you and it might need a decontamination, or we have decided as a team that it is going to be sent to the decontamination station. That's actually one of your actions that you choose. So again, report your findings to your supervisor. Report that you have a high-risk boat, and that's how we'll come to the decision that we are going to perform a decon. Documenting what you find, where you found it. We need notes and photos. And again, these two steps are the most important, and it's imperative that we lay a good groundwork so that we can move to the next two steps But without the reporting process done properly and without us documenting, we kind of have to revisit those 2 steps before we can carry on, which is a major inconvenience to us and the boater. If we need to send the boat into decontamination, do not issue the permit. So it must pass a post-decontamination inspection before it is permitted for launch. So the collection of the samples and the decontamination, that will be performed before we actually issue them their permit. And so you want to justify your decontamination, report, document, and save that inspection, but do not issue the permit. We can always go back in and edit the inspection and add to it, but we definitely don't want to issue them a permit again until that post-decontamination inspection is completed and it has been deemed fit for launch. So, questions. It's knowledge check time. Please feel free to email me or Tegan any questions you have, and we will see you tomorrow. Thanks.